Congressman Jim Renacci joins us. He's a member of the House Ways and Means Committee. He's in Cleveland, and Congressman, before you were elected, you were a successful businessman and an accountant, so you know this stuff. How far do you think this tit-for-tat trade war could go?
Well, first off, thank you for having me, Eric. But what I've said all along, the next best president is going to do some things that people are going to be uncomfortable with because we have to change this. We can't continue to have these unfair trade policies, especially with China. So I'm glad to see the president's doing what he's doing. I think in the end, this is part of negotiations. I think this is what this president does best. Let's see where we end up. It's going to be a little uncomfortable for a while, but I don't think this president or anyone wants a trade war. What he wants is to have fair trade with these countries, and it's just not there right now. When you travel the world and you find out that American goods, you know, we pay 20% or 25% or 10% when they go to other countries, but 2% when they come back. It's just unfair right now.
But what about the critics, Congressman, who say that this is going to hurt the economy and hurt American workers?
Well, I think long run it's going to help the economy because we're going to be able to move America forward and make a fairer trading system. Look, I'm all for free trade, but we have to have fair trade as well. We can't let the other countries continue to do what they're doing. So a little bit uncomfortable as we go through the negotiations, but let's get through them.
You know, you talk about the fact that we need to, you like this, clearly, and you think the president's doing the right thing, but it's going to be uncomfortable. It's an interesting word because I think that's the hard part for people, especially the United States, the American people, to understand the short-term pain versus the long-term gain. How do you clearly paint that picture so that people can see down the road?
Well, look at what's happening with some of the steel tariffs. We now have a steel mill being re-energized in Mingo Junction here in Ohio, 300 more workers. We got to look at some of the positives that are occurring. I think that's what's important. But you're right, we're going to have a little pain, but this is going to be for a long-term gain, and I think we need it. Too often, we've just did political things for the last 10, 20 years. Everything's about politics. I was a businessman for 28 years. Sometimes you try things, you negotiate, then you pull back. We need to be able to do that more and get things best for the American people and for the American businessman, but also for the American employee, because in the end, that's what this is all about, more employees here in America.
You know, I just wonder what this all means for the relationship with our closest allies, Congressman, and the president did speak specifically to that, talking about the EU as they compare to China with our trade policies. Watch the president here.
You won't back down on the tariffs against China?
No. Look, we're in for, you know, we've put in $250 billion worth of product. The tariffs are, in fact, it could go up to 500, frankly, if we don't make a deal. And they want to make a deal. I will tell you, China wants to make a deal. And so do I, but it's got to be a fair deal for this country. One of the hard things is our presidents and our business leaders, they were missing in action.
So this was actually, Congressman, the president talking about he will not back down on those China tariffs. We'll get to him talking about and comparing the EU to the way China's behaving. But clearly this is a president who says, despite all the criticism here, he's not backing down.
Well, look, China has not been trading fairly with us for years, and we've let it go. Past presidents, Republicans, Democrats have let it go. It's time we do some things, and I think that's what this president's trying to do, trying to get us more fair and freer trade with China. At the same time, look, he's a business guy. I kind of was thinking while I was hearing that, when I was in business, some of my competitors were my closest friends. But in the end, you've got to do what's best for your business, even if sometimes it hurts your competitors, because we have to make sure that America is moving forward.
Interesting way to put it.
Yeah, the EU, talk about closest friends. They're now threatening, though, to hit us with $300 billion worth of tariffs. Here's what the president said about the EU, saying, in his words, they're the worst.
The European Union is possibly as bad as China, just smaller. Okay? It's terrible what they did to us. European Union, take a look at the car situation. They send the Mercedes in. We can't send our cars in. Look what they do to our farmers. They don't want our farm products. Now, in all fairness, they have their farmers, so they want to protect their farmers. But we don't protect ours, and they protect theirs.
Congressman, what about that? I mean, if the EU does slap $300 billion on us?
Well, look, I've been over in Europe, traveled their countries. You don't see any American cars over there because of the tariffs. We need to be able to make sure this is fair. I think in the end, we need to give this president the opportunity to negotiate, which is what he's trying to do. We need to be able to see where we come out of all this. I know this president does not want to have trade wars, but he wants to do what's right for America, and we're going to continue to have to work really hard to get through this. But as I said earlier, there will be a little pain, and I think people are, as I travel Ohio, it's amazing. When I talk to the farmers, when I talk to the manufacturers, you know what they say to me? They're a little uncomfortable with these tariffs, but you know what? Let's let the president try and move this forward because we think it'll be better for us in the long run.
How do you see this playing out when you see a negotiating room? He throws the big number up. When do they sit down together instead of just throwing new tariffs out and get in a room and work out a deal?
Well, look, he's got a lot of people working underneath him. We're talking. I'm sure they're continuing the talk. This president's not, living in a bubble making these decisions, and there are people already communicating. We'll continue to do that. But let's see where we end up. Again, I think this is a negotiation time. People are talking. In the end, let's give him 6 months. I know I've heard this president say, give me some time to negotiate. Let me see where I can take it so it's best for America.
It's interesting when you look at the U.S. stock market as a gauge for the concern out there. Obviously, the market has, sort of taken a pause from hitting records in the face of this. There's been some nerves in the U.S. stock market, down 100 points on this Monday morning. It is a holiday week, et cetera. But there's clearly some concern playing out in the marketplace, but surely not panic. That being said, concerns about escalation, that's certainly warranted, with Justin Trudeau saying he and his officials have vowed further action if the White House follows through with these threatened duties on their trade. So how far does this go, and how painful is it going to get ultimately, Congressman, before it gets better?
Well, look, anybody that's been in the market for the last 16 months is happy. I don't care whether you're a union worker with a pension or whatever. Your pensions are going up, so things are moving in the right direction. In the end, there's always going to be fluctuations. And like you said, there's no panic yet. Let's see where we get. I think most people realize we're working through negotiations. Sometimes you have to be a little tougher. I've always said the best negotiator is one who's willing to walk away. And sometimes that's what the best negotiator can get done. I'm not saying the president's talking about doing that, don't get me wrong. But I know in the business world, sometimes you got to be willing to accept some things you're not happy with to make sure that you can move things forward in a better way. And I think that's where we're going.
It does give you different perspective. Congressman, thank you for joining us this morning.
Great to see you.
Thank you. You
as
well.
Thank you.
So,